So let's actually use CAD Sketcher and Blender Precision Modeling to sort out a little problem of mine. You see, for quite some time I've actually only had one camera, the one attached to the top of my monitor. And because of that, I've been powering it through this thing. This is a little power supply for it, but I move it around a lot, and because I move it around a lot, this kept moving around and it kept breaking this. In fact, this is the fourth one that I've ever bought, and I'm completely done with this. I want this to no longer break. So let me show you my entire thought process right this minute of how I go about designing something to fit this for 3D printing. Now we've already done the first step, which is understanding the problem. The next step is, well, the brief. You might be wondering, well, you're making this for yourself. Surely there's no brief. Well, technically there is. Think, when you're designing something as a solution, do you want it to be easy to print? Do you want it to be a thing that's going to stay in place all the time? Something that's going to be easily removable? Is it going to be using screws? Is it going to be using magnets? For instance, for this thing, does it need a way of letting out heat? Can it be in an enclosure? Can it not be in an enclosure? So all of these things are important to keep in mind. So I'm going to think up a little bit and I'll come back to you with what exactly my brief is for this. So after doing a little bit of thinking, here is my brief. I want it to be strong, but not over the top strong. I want to be able to stand here by accident, of course, and it not break. I want it to be not too bulky though, which means I understand that this bit here will probably have the bulk of the design, but I don't want it to take over the enclosure. I also need to make sure that the enclosure does not get covered too much, because I did some testing and the top and the bottom do heat up quite some bit. So I need that to be able to cool off. I'm happy to use screws with it. I don't want magnets near this thing, and I want it to be easy to print. I don't want to have to deal with supports. So there's my brief. Let's go and design this up. Now this is the point that I think differs for absolutely everyone. What I like to do is literally just stare at the problem and think of different ideas. And just to give you a few ideas that I was thinking of sort of like a clamshell approach that was very sort of minimal up at this point, and then here is going to get quite bulky, and I would have two screws going on right here, and that's how I'd work with that. The other idea was, okay, well, that's a little bit over the top. What about an angular band that goes and grabs this top bit and then comes down around here and secures in this direction? I was just like, well, I'm going to need quite a bit of support for that, and I don't know how strong I'll be able to do that, keeping in mind 3D printing properties and how bulky that would have to get to have the enough strength for it. So that I wasn't quite happy with that. Then I thought something that would slide on in like that, and then I didn't know how I was going to attach that with anything, and things just got complicated once again. So in the end, I've come up with an idea that sort of takes a little bit of everything. The first thing is it's going to go in with the cable itself. It's going to be a little triangle-ish thing over on this point. The cable's going to slide in, you go down, then this will rotate 90 degrees. I'm going to use the little flare bits here to hold that in place. So that's going to be that little thing here. And how am I going to keep that in that place? Well, I'm going to add a band that's going to go all the way around here to there, and it's going to be a two-part print, and they're going to interlock to one another. This band will actually slide on top to there, so it's going to really lock into place. I'm not going to be using any screws at all. I did think I was going to use screws, and then I changed my mind on the screws because I don't have screws that short anyway, but I just wanted to keep things as strong as possible with as few moving parts as possible. So doing that right there. Now, that's the way I like to work. It might not be the way that you like to work. The way that might work for you, that I've heard other people, is basically get whatever it is your problem is and start modeling the problem first. Just literally model the shape into your 3D application. Obviously, we're using Blender here. And then while you're modeling, ideas will slowly start coming to you of how you can go about it. The other way is sometimes you can brief yourself into a corner. Just tackle little points at a time and create a solution for each one, and then see how you can merge these solutions together. But now that you know what my design is going to be, let's go and design it up. So with that whirlwind of a design out of the way, let me explain exactly how I've created this. So it's all made out of just these 5 sketches. And the first thing I want to say is that if you wanted to learn how to use CAD Sketcher, I do have a series of a few videos of this. So I'll link it down in the description. And on top of that, just be aware that this file is available on my Gumroad completely for free. Or if you want to give me $1 for it, that's fine. Link is down in the description, but it will only be supported by this version of CAD Sketcher. It might break if you use other versions, and I'm not going to keep this up to date. So the first thing I want to say is right here, this plug, for instance, it's not fully defined. You don't have to fully define everything, especially when you're working for yourself. Just make sure that you define everything dimensionally. It doesn't have to be geometrically placed all the time, and just make sure that everything that's going to be useful for you, make sure you constrain that. If not, well, you might not know that you actually did a problem, and I had that at one point through this design process. So leaving that there, you might wonder, why is this over here and you're still able to do that over there? How does that work? That's because this is a linked duplicate. I show that in one of the videos. A linked duplicate basically means that I can duplicate it out and it's still going to change the mesh if I edit that sketch. So I can start modeling somewhere completely different. Now I have done a couple of sketch-to-sketch references here, and I'll show you later on in this video how that's come in useful. But what I want to show you is the main workflow that I've done here is I've done half of the sketch. So I'm going to hide all of this here, just get the back clip, half of it right there. And then all I've done is mirrored it. Then I've solidified it, and then these booleans, I'm using the bool tool, again, edit preferences, bool tool, you'll find them there, and then I've just used my control numpad plus to join things, control numpad minus to take things away and do the cuts, and that's how I've got these end results here. By all means, feel free to explore this file, it might help you out. Now, there is a glaring problem here. One of the things that I said was that I wanted this to be 3D printable as possible, and that right there, that is a 90-degree angle change, and that's not very 3D printable. So how am I going to fix this? Well, it's actually really simple. I'm going to press Shift and right-click to get my 3D cursor on top of here. I'm going to create myself a cube. I've got mine at 50 millimeters. I'm going to rotate it on the Y by 45. Then I'm just going to pull that up some, then I'll pull it out as well, and then maybe bring it down a little bit more, something like that. And now I'm just going to use that bool tool once again with this selected, shift select that, control numpad minus, that's cut away. And for those of you that know, all I've done is I created a surface right there to print at an angle. So then everything here is at a 45-degree angle, which means that is no longer an issue. A couple of other things I want to bring your attention to is there's this tear-shaped hole. That's because I'm going to be printing the band in that direction. So there's going to be no drooping here. It is a little bit of overkill, but I just wanted to put in the best 3D printing practices while I'm doing this. And lastly, when you're exploring this file, you're going to see right here, this back clip is the only one that has this in place. And that's because the actual band doesn't at all, because I'm using the back clip as the cutting tool for the band. You'll see that while exploring the file. Now let's get this ready for 3D printing. So I'm just going to grab both of these here. I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate it. You'll see that that breaks everything. Just right click to cancel the movement. I have to apply all of the modifiers. If you don't have this, again, edit preferences. In there you'll find modifier tools. I've done this in the other videos where I've shown CAD Sketcher, and then I'm press G, move this out over here. We'll grab this one here, we'll press G and move it out this way. I'll get this in the right orientation. So I'm going to go R on the X 180, then R on the Y by 45 in the other direction. And now first thing to do is just go over everything, just check. Nothing looks too crazy, nothing out of shape. Nope. Now let's do a normals check. So over here we have overlays. I'm going to do face orientation. Everything should be blue. There should be nothing red, and everything is blue. Fantastic. That's exactly what I want. And then from there, I want to do a 3D print toolbox check. Again, in the edit preferences add-ons, look up toolbox, you'll find the 3D print toolbox. And here I'm going to do a check, and look at that. That's all turned out 0 for me. Perfect. Let's check this other one over here. There is one that does not bother me in the slightest bit, so this is all ready for 3D printing. If you do get errors in the 3D print toolbox, don't worry, I have a video that covers every single one of those errors. It's linked down in the description or in the card, and let's export this now. So I'll select one of these, I'll go File, then Export, then STL, and I'll make sure that I have selection only selected. If not, it's going to export all of this other stuff here. So let's get these 3D printed and see the end result. So while that's printing on my Ender-3 S1, let's have a chat about the design. Let me just put you down here. All right, come in close. So, I've printed everything out for this. So we have this printing right this minute like that. Yes, I know you just saw it printing there, but I have it printed. Now the reason why we've printed it like this is so that it doesn't have any crazy overhangs and we don't have to use any support. Because if I had it flat, like I actually do, I've printed it out right here. Is this the flat version? It is. The flat version's right here. Inside there we have 90-degree angle changes, and the only way that I'll get super clean prints with that is putting support down in there. So this is garbage. So then we've got the other version, which is going completely upwards like that. We get perfect prints inside, but keep in mind what's going to be going on here, the pressures and the layer lines that we're going to have to deal with. So here's the clip. The clip is going to be sliding in there, and then when we actually have the power bank in there, that's a lot of force pushing out on these, and that is going to give out instantly. That's just going to snap. Now what I do want to show you is also the power of CAD Sketcher, and I did a little bit of a boo-boo, which is the first time I did this test print right here. Well, you'll see now, it was a little bit bigger than intended. There's a good centimeter more. I didn't do the whole thing of measure twice, print once, so instead I'm printing twice. So let me show you how I fixed that quickly using CAD Sketcher. Now here we are back in Blender, so how about I do that little change? So I obviously made that too big. How would I have quickly changed that? Really easily actually, because this was done through a non-destructive workflow. I can just edit that core clip right here, go to this dimension right here, and then just change it up. Now we're not going to see the change, so I want to show you the change. Let's go turn on the mesh and turn that up there on the visibility. You'll see that it doesn't change it. You need to update it with this little force update. You do that, and there you have it. This is why I actually made that boolean so long, so that I'm able to fiddle around with it. So once I do that, I need to leave the sketch, and we have to go through the same workflow. So that would be selecting this, pressing Shift-D, right-clicking to cancel it, applying everything, then moving it out, then doing the 3D print check, checking normals, then exporting this out for 3D printing. But that there is how quickly it was for me to change that little mistake of mine. So let's see the end result. And there you have it. I'm really happy with the end result. What I'm most happy about is that it's still technically removable, so I can unclip it or clip it back in. As you can see, a massive thank you to my patrons. Without you, I truly wouldn't be able to make Maker Tales, and a big thank you to my VIP makers, Jem Otzkanak and David Fernandez. And if you're enjoying what I'm making here and you think I am worthy of your support, I would love to see you there too. Thank you for watching, keep making, and let the quest continue.